There's so many options. What do I do? If you want to get better quality out of your church's live stream but don't know where to start, today I'm going to talk to you about 4 different audio setups for your church's live stream. Plus, I'll tell you about the critical functions that you need for mixing broadcast versus front of house. Hey, if you're new here, go ahead and hit subscribe and ding the little bell and turn your notifications on to all. You don't want to miss another video when it drops, because I'm here to help you make every worship mix an enjoyable one, no matter where people are listening. The most basic audio setup just takes your main stereo mix off the console and sends it to the video encoder, but this has a few problems. It doesn't account for how the speakers in the room are interacting with the audio signal, so you're mixing for a big reverberant space, but then the feed to the broadcast mix is really dry and might feel a little bit empty. To overcome this, you can add room mics through a matrix to add to the stereo mix. These mics can give you a little bit more ambience, and it bridges the gap between what's coming out of the speakers and what's coming out of the console. Also, if there's people in the room, you'll hear them too. Now, room mics and crowd mics are another topic altogether, but when I make that video, I'll be sure to put a link down in the description below. The second setup type uses a mix or an aux send that's different from the main mix going to the video encoder. If you're running front of house at the same time, you could set up this mix to be post fader, so it'll track your movements on the channel faders and adjust from song to song. This can also be helpful because our music level is typically a lot louder than our preaching and our speaking levels. This lets you send a whole lot more of the speaking and preaching mics, which might be a whole lot quieter in the room, but still need to be at the same average level as the music was for the broadcast. Now, I always recommend that you mix broadcast in a quiet, separate location from where the music is happening. This helps you get a better idea of what it's going to sound like on the other end. I mean, nobody else has the drum kit in their room. One creative way to do this without buying another console is to get some studio monitors, some really long mic cables, and an iPad so that you can mix that aux send remotely from a quiet location. Now, if you have an isolated place to mix, you really need to be by yourself. I love video people, but I don't want them talking around me while I'm trying to mix. I made another video about setting up your studio monitors and basic acoustic treatment. You can check it out through the link in the description below. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but between when I started shooting this video and when I got done editing it, I had a lot of questions about how do you improve your live stream mix and why is it so difficult? So I made this free guide that you can download on how to lead your church stream team. See what I did there? In this guide, I talk about why it's so difficult to get a good live stream mix, what you can do to define the parameters so that you're at least talking about the same thing when you're discussing it with somebody else, and the places where you need to invest to get the most bang for your buck in improving your live stream. So check that out through the link in the description below. And now, back to our setups. Now, one big difference in the way that you set up a broadcast console versus a front of house console is the solo function. You want to be able to solo in place or hear an input by itself without interrupting the main output going to the encoder. You'll have to have your studio monitors on a separate output, and hopefully you've got a dedicated knob so that you can adjust the level for this. If you don't have a level control built into your console for the studio monitors, you should get an external monitor switcher. This is really helpful, and if it's got a mono button, that's even better. Now, another thing that a monitor controller does is let you have multiple speakers to listen to. This is really helpful for making sure that it sounds good on big systems and for tiny little phone speakers. Now, the metering and the output level for a lot of these live sound consoles that we're using for broadcast, they're not really made for mastering, or they don't have their metering set up so that you can know exactly how far you are from clipping. If possible, putting layers of compression and a limiter on the stereo bus can help you get that level up without clipping. I've got another video about setting up your console and compressing in layers to get the best sound out of it. I'll put a link to that one in the description below as well. Here's a pro tip. Keep a close eye on the encoder or the audio input for your video switcher. This way you can see exactly how much level you've got going to the web stream. And if you're having problems because your audio level is too low going out to the stream, here's a hack if you're using OBS. In OBS, you can configure a filter on the audio source. Then you can use a VST plugin mastering limiter to get that level up without clipping. My favorite one is the iZotope Ozone 8 Maximizer, but really anyone is going to work in this situation.
We lift your name up.
But please be careful and don't absolutely crush your mix with this. Now the fourth setup for your broadcast mix could be to use a digital audio workstation, or a DAW. But I just hate saying DAW. And digital audio workstation is a mouthful, so I'm not sure what I'm going to say for the rest of the video, but know that I'm internally conflicted. Now the benefit is that buying a computer and loading it full of plugins can be less expensive than a comparable system of a dedicated hardware console. And the options it opens up are a whole new world. A whole new world! It's really easy to tune vocals. You can even use samples to augment your kick and snare sounds, and it's really easy to get a mastering level output all in the box. Now there's a few things that you need to consider when you're doing this, is that you have to get the audio inputs to your computer. If you've got a Dante setup already, you're pretty much good to go. Other consoles will let you send a bunch of channels over USB, so that can be an option too. The only thing you have to watch out for there is channel counts. Now, with all the awesomeness of mixing inside Pro Tools, Logic, or Studio One, there are some considerations that you need to take and things you have to watch out for. The first is input gain. In live sound, we're aiming for a lot of headroom, but a lot of these plugins are designed to operate at a higher level, where they're looking for a hotter input signal in order to operate at their best self. The other problem we run into is plug-in latency. Now, when you're just mixing tracks that are already recorded, the program takes into account all the delay that comes from each one of those processors in your plugins. The only problem is that when we're in record mode, or we're monitoring our inputs, that delay compensation is turned off. So all the plugins, however much delay they're creating, can make differences in the timing from one input to the other. There's a couple solutions for this. The first is to just use the same plugins on every single channel. But if you're going to put auto-tune on your vocals, you don't also need auto-tune on your snare drum. So how are you going to get around that? So the solution for this is to put a delay at the very top of the channel path. This way, the inputs that have more latency, you put less delay on. But the inputs that are using less latency from plugins, you put more delay on, so they all arrive at the stereo bus at the same time as they would, even if you weren't using any plugins. So then the timing relationship of when they came into the computer and when they go out of the computer remains the same. But then when you start adding groups and parallel compression, things get nuts really fast. Now, if you want all this flexibility without all the headache of setting it up, you can buy a template from my friend Luke Hendrickson. He mixes the broadcast feed for Bethel Church, and we've worked together on several occasions for the One Thing Conference here in Kansas City. He's got all the routing, the plug-in presets, and the delay compensation set up for you already. It includes the custom kick and snare samples that he uses every week, and a video tutorial showing you how to use it all. He's got all the routing worked out, all the delay worked out, and all the gain structure so that from one plugin to the next, they're operating at their best level. You can find more information and how to purchase through the link down in the description below. So as you're looking to upgrade your church live stream audio setup, I hope this video has been helpful for you and cleared up some of the confusion on what you need and what you don't. If you liked this video, share it with a friend, mash thumbs up, hit subscribe and ding the little bell, and don't forget to turn the notifications on to all. I mean, you want to know the minute I drop a video. Be sure to check out the other videos in this series, and we'll see you back here next time on Attaway Audio.